Hey, what's going on, guys? I am here today to do my out-of-box review for the HG Iron-Blooded Orphans, Gundam Barbatos, and Long Distance Transport Booster Kutan Type 3. That's a very long name, and I realized in the unboxing I kept calling it the Long Range Booster, is the Long Distance Booster, whatever. Anyway, the point is that this is a very long thing, so I have to apologize that the sides of my light tent here are going to be creeping in. We're not just going to have just the plain background, that plain black background that I would like to keep, but we are going to have a little bit of those sides creeping in just because this thing is so long. So let me get this going around. One thing that you'll notice is that there are a couple parts missing, most notably the cannons missing on the top. I'm going to mention those, and we'll put those on when I just talk about the accessories and stuff, just because they're sort of an accessory, kind of. I guess you could include the fuel tanks as an accessory there as well. But I just wanted to keep it fairly minimal here just to start off, and you'll also notice that the Barbatos Gundam here, which again is included with this kit, I didn't put any of the stickers on that. I put all the stickers on the long range booster, of course, and I'll point those out to you. If you can't tell, I'll point them out to you more closely in a moment. The Barbatos, I did not put any of these stickers on at all. Here's the Barbatos sticker sheet. And that is because I want to do a quick little tutorial video on how to paint in all or most of those details on the kit just by doing a little hand painting. So yeah, that's going to be a different video coming up maybe relatively soon. I'm going to try to get that out as soon as I can, so please be patient though. So I haven't put any of the stickers on the Barbatos. If you guys want to see what it looks like all stickered up, you can see my review of just that kit. I did use the stickers just for that review, and honestly a lot of the stickers just aren't great, so that's why painting is always going to be your better option. So that's why I want to do just a little tutorial video on that. Going to try to get on that as soon as possible, but otherwise let's just focus on reviewing this kit. As you can see, obviously it's really quite large. The Gundam Barbatos is just a pretty standard 1/44 scale kit, and you can see this thing is pretty gigantic, towering over that. We do have the new base there coming in and doing a really good job of supporting this. You can choose basically two different angles. You can have this just angled straight, or you can have it angled slightly up. I have the extra piece connected on there to angle this up. I think it looks so much better. Just kind of moving straight is just kind of ugly. That was one of my big complaints about the G-Self Assault Pack, was the limited sort of look of that kit. It was only able to just be pointing straight, and it was honestly kind of boring. The fact that this one can be kind of pointed up at a slight angle like that is definitely an improvement on that. Just a lot of stuff going on this kit, and we have a lot of like different things that we can do with just little connection parts and stuff. So I'm going to try to get through this review as fast as possible, but I'm just warning you now, it is going to be a little bit longer because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with this kit. And I want to show you guys how this is going to look with the Grey's Kai as well, so I'll show you that later on in the review. But why don't we first start off by getting the Barbatos out of here, because you guys all know what the Barbatos is all about, so there's nothing really new to talk about there. There's nothing changed about that at all. So we'll get that guy out of there. And while we are, why don't we just go ahead and talk about a couple of the accessories that comes with. Same as the regular original kit, we have the original sword, which this is going to be coming with as well, just the one piece there. And then we have the mace, which is coming with as well. And then we have the gauntlet arm as well, which you have the option of putting on if you want. If you have the regular original kit and then you have this, that means you'll have two gauntlet arms. So if you wanted to have like one on the left and right, you could do that. The problem is that the shield only connects onto one side. So what you would have to do, just to give you a little bit of a demonstration, something that you could do anyway, is you'd have to cut off that detail. Here you can see on this side, it's just plain. On this side we have this peg for connecting the shield. You could just cut that off, smooth it on that side, and then just glue the shield onto the opposite side, and then you'd be basically good to go for a left and right side gauntlet arm if you wanted. So that's just an option, something that you could do if you want. Otherwise, then we also have the connectors for the backpack. These small little connection pieces for mounting the shield and the sword and the mace onto the backpack, as well as the two connector arms. And we can actually use both of these for this kit. They're two different lengths, if you remember. but we can actually use both of these, as we can mount both of the cannons onto there if you wanted. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. For now, that's it for just the regular Barbatos kit. Again, nothing new. Let's talk about the long-range booster. Now, really cool that they included this clear orange piece here in the cockpit. Just to bring that down for you here. That could have easily just been a piece and then just like 3 orange stickers to stick on there. But it's really nice they actually made that a clear orange piece. That definitely helps. There is going to be quite a lot of stickers on here though. On the side, you can see this dark part inside of there. Here, those are stickers. On this part, that darker gray, those are 2 big stickers there. Underneath, some gray here, here, and here. Those are 3 gigantic stickers there. Inside the arms, there's some stickers, these dark part, 1, 2, 3, and I think that's it there. So it's basically just going to be a lot of these like really large stickers to cover some, just make some color separation on the kit. When you're looking at it from a distance, you know, it doesn't look too bad because you're not really going to notice that too much, just because there's kind of a lot going on. It's so large and impressive as is. But when you're looking up close, a lot of them aren't going to look that great. The darker ones are okay. These lighter ones back here are not really all that great. As I mentioned before, the fuel tanks are kind of optional. You don't have to have them on here. You can just have it just like this, and you may want to, depending on how you want to eventually display this. Stickers inside here, there as well, on the inside of that part. And then a lot of this here is going to move and shake and do all sorts of fun stuff, so we'll talk about that in just a second. The new accessories that we've got are obviously the cannons going on the top. Now, as I sort of had a bit of a brain fart in the unboxing, these cannons are a totally new mold from the cannon that was in the Iron-Blooded Arms set 1, the option set 1. Mainly just because that one collapsed. You know, the barrel came out and attached onto the side. This one doesn't do that at all. It still has this detail there on the side for that, but the barrel doesn't come out. The only thing that moves on this kit is just the handle moves side to side. So you can still mount this onto this part, onto the backpack, and bring that down and have this connected into the little mechanical arm and have it holding the big giant these big giant cannons on both sides of the Barbatos. You could do something like that. If you wanted to have the Barbatos, of course, separated and not actually connected inside or in some way connected onto the long distance booster, but of course you're probably going to want to have it in there, so in which case you're going to want to keep these 2 cannons mounted on the top, in which case here on the top of the kit we have this gray piece. If you don't want to use the cannons, you can use that gray piece. If you do, you take this piece off. You can see there's our hole there. I'm going to pop this into there like so, and there we go. Now our cannons are mounted in on there as well. Definitely looking like it's got a bit more firepower now. The other new accessory is the new sword. This one now has a white handle and a little bit larger piece there at the handle, just to give you a comparison with the original. You can see that the original is just very thin. This one now just has this new kind of part attached onto there. Otherwise looking very, very similar. Then included in our bunch of different connection pieces that we're going to be using for different things is this one. And this one is really interesting to me because on the Barbatos kit, I didn't really think too much of this before. There's this hole right there on the back skirt, which is obviously there to mount something. I didn't really think too much of it before, but now I can see we're going to be mounting this piece onto here. And what this is going to allow you to do is to mount pretty much whatever you want that you could mount on there. But what it shows you in the manual is to use these. The Graze's shield from the option set 1, as well as the small little connection piece from the option set 2, so you do have to have both option set 1 and 2 to be able to use this, but then you can plug that onto this part and you can have this articulated, slightly articulated, really not the most useful thing it seems like, but the shield attached onto like the side back of the Barbatos there. What I think is probably more interesting is the ability to use this Graze Kai Bazooka from the option set 2 as well. You can plug that onto the side of here. Can then grab onto one of the handles. You of course have a couple different options, but to do something like that, honestly, obviously this is not correctly posed. I'm just sort of doing this for demonstration's sake, but you'd have to do a little bit of experimenting to see the best way that you wanted to do this. But it's just cool that it is an option. So it's nice that we have this connection piece on the back for mounting some new cool stuff onto the back skirt of the Barbatos. Not really the easiest thing to work with though. It feels like it's kind of missing an extra part. And honestly, I thought the same thing about these mechanical arms for the backpack as well. Cool idea, but don't really work all that well. So that's interesting, but not the most useful. Okay, so to mount the Barbatos inside of here, the first thing we need to do, sort of open these little guys here on the front, swing these arms out like so, sort of open up this whole front thing here, and it's starting to look a little bit alien-esque with all these little leg things in there, little connection parts. Then we've got these guys here on the front that are also going to open up. The manual says you're supposed to remove the cannons on the top before doing this, but I think we're going to be okay without it. We'll just have to see. Next thing is to fold up this guy here on the front and this guy down, and you'll see inside of there, all the way back in here is a little peg. That's going to be our peg that is basically going to plug into where the action base would connect up inside the crotch of the Barbatos. So all we need to do is just sort of slide the Barbatos back in here between all that stuff. Try to see what I'm doing here. That just fits into place. We'll just kind of straighten him up a bit. And then basically just everything we just did in reverse, just to close everything back up around it. Close these arms down, those guys down, like that. Close this back up around the front. And then there we go. Now our Barbatos is flying inside of there, and pretty hidden for the most part, just due to the design of all this. I'll try to give you guys a look there a little bit more from the bottom. As you can see, you're not going to be able to see too much of it there. So after we take pretty much everything off, and this is the only thing you're left with, I also took out the little adapter piece which sets the kit up at an angle, so you'll be able to see what it looks like when it's just pointing straight on. We're ready to put everything back on, including the Barbatos. So the first thing we need to do is move this part back and up, something like that, basically as close as we can get that. Then we're going to use this adapter piece here and plug this into the backpack of the Barbatos, or in place of the backpack, I should say. So we need to remove the backpack, then just plug that into the holes there. Then this is going to slide into there and pop into place. So then that's there. Then we can put the cannons back on the top. Then we're going to attach these crab arms back onto the side carefully. You're meant to move the Barbatos' arms forward so they kind of look like they're holding these big arms here, but they don't actually really hold them. They're just sort of gonna kind of look like they're holding them. It's kind of something like that. So that is pretty much what that is going to look like. Not the most impressive thing really. I think it looks okay with the Barbatos. And yeah, there's different things that you can do. So one of the other things that I can do that I didn't show you before, but I'll just remind you here on the manual, while you've got the Barbatos mounted inside there like we had it before with its crotch kind of connected up under there, you can kind of just fold out all these arms like this, like it basically shows on the cover art for the box, and then have the Barbatos just sort of holding its sword or whatever like that. Not really the most impressive thing. It looks okay, but I'm not really going to bother doing that. What I really want to do now, however, is pull out the Gray's Kai and put this into there. So for that, we are going to require a couple of other new different kind of connection parts that we've got with this kit. So let me get that. So starting back to basically the core of the long distance booster here, the first thing we need to do is take these two kind of big long arm pieces and do a little bit of part swapping here. You need to take off this big connection piece, which is what connects this to the body there with the Barbatos. We're going to attach this onto the Grays this time, so remove that. And then we have this sort of thruster bell part, which is just going to attach in to the front of there, like so. Then just folding this part down, that's where the Gray's Kai's foot is going to go inside there. Then on our actual Gray's Kai, we need to remove the knee armor, 1 and 2, and replace that with these parts here, which have these connection pieces on there like that. It's going to end up looking like so. We're going to need to take off the backpack as well. Then to mount this giant arm thing onto the leg, we're going to put the foot in first, connect the knee into a hole there, just connect into there like that, and then you can kind of move these little side little connection pieces in a way so that they kind of look like they're more so attached onto the leg of the Gray's Kai. One thing that I didn't really like, I forgot to mention this about with the Barbatos, is that these things just don't really seem to do much. They're just kind of there. When these are attached onto the Gray's Kai, they seem to pose a little bit more of a purpose. They sort of look more like they're actually attached to the leg there. This thruster here on the front can also move out a little bit, as well as this one down here can also move a little bit there. So once you've got both of those attached onto the legs, it's going to look something like this. Obviously those legs are going to be pretty heavy. You're going to be putting a lot of stress on that waist. So far it's holding just fine. That is something that I am going to worry a little bit about, because we're going to be connecting this via the backpack. So that means those legs are going to be pretty much just hanging there. I'm going to be a little bit worried that this is just going to come apart in the waist. Hopefully not though, so let's see. When we get this attached onto here, the other thing that I'm noticing is that if we keep this at the angle of just straight on, then those pointed parts are going to be pointing too far down, that you're going to have to adjust the angle of this. So let's pull this off again. So there we go, I've got the adapter part put back in there and got this tilted up at the angle again, and now we have enough room for these to be pointing down and not touching the ground. So that is going to be absolutely necessary for if you're going to be using the Gray's Kai. Then of course the last thing we can do is put the cannons back up on the top of here. Hopefully nothing is going to be falling apart. I can just feel how heavy those legs are, so I'm very worried. And then the cool thing about this too is that the arms are free to hold some weapons in there as well if you want. So whatever weapons that you want to put into those hands, either just the Gray's Kai rifle or if you have the bazooka. Of course, if you have the weapon set 2, you can use that. Put that on the shoulders, and then it can be holding the bazooka as well. You might have a little bit of trouble clearance here between the cannons and getting that shoulder armor on there. Let me give it a try anyway. So here we go. Here's my ultimate form Gray's Kai here, unless we could be surprised and we get something more even ultimate-er out later, but that option set 2 shoulder armor and that bazooka are going to work on there just fine. We're able to clear those cannons on there. And so yeah, this is a really cool set. I gotta say, personally I think the look of this long-range booster looks so much better with the Gray's Kai, but I think, and rightfully so, Bandai was probably thinking like, where they're putting out so many different versions of the Gray's Kai, or just of the Grays, so like to put out this long-range booster with the Grays maybe would have turned some people off to it, because they're like, we're just getting like Grays overkill. We have the Grays, the Schwab Grays, Gray's Kai, Gray's Kai 2. So I think to put out another kit including the Grays maybe would not have been smart, so instead they included the Barbatos, which I think was a smart choice. And so far in the series we've seen this really only in use with the Barbatos, so as far as I can remember, we haven't even seen this with the Gray's Kai, so I think this is just sort of an extra thing. Ultimately, I think the most awesome version of this kit would have been getting the Barbatos and the Gray's Kai included with this, as well as a second base for the other kit, whichever one you want to have in here, and then have the other one on its own separate little base. That would have been nice, but obviously that would have been a very costly kit. Then we probably would have been talking 8,000 yen or something, 7,000 yen I suppose. We really wouldn't have been too bad. This kit as it is was 5,000 yen, so if you include the price of one more of those kits plus another little base, I guess we really wouldn't have bumped it up too much. I would say 65 or 7,000 yen would have been a kind of reasonable price for that, an expected price. So again, but of course I'm not in charge. I don't make any of the rules. I'm just sort of saying what I think would have been cool. So ultimately, the question that you're going to have to ask is this going to be worth it for you? Maybe especially if you already have a Gundam Barbatos, to be honest, the Barbatos included with this kit is not really going to add all that much to it. You either have it inside where you can barely see it, or you have it mounted in the front where you're going to have a lot of extra parts of the long range booster that you're going to have nothing to do with. All of these extra parts here. And the fuel tanks, you can leave on or take off. It's up to you. You could probably want to just leave those on. But either way, no matter how you slice it, whatever you do with this kit, you're going to have leftover plastic. So that's, when you're paying 5,000 yen because there's a lot of stuff included, but then you can't actually use a lot of that stuff in what you're doing with the kit, then that might not make this kit really weigh out for you. Just depends on what you want to do with it. If you want to use this with your Graze Kai, it looks awesome. If you like the way it looks with the Barbatos, then it's gonna look awesome. Honestly, what I think might actually be one of the better options to do with this kit is just keeping the long range booster and the Barbatos separate. Just take your Barbatos, put it on an extra, like I just have this on an action base 2 there. Just buy an extra action base 2 for your Barbatos. Give it the new sword. It's got that. It still has the same original sword and mace that it had before. You can even mount those cannons onto the Barbatos if you want. You can use the new adapter piece to mount the option part from the weapon set 2 and 1 onto the Barbatos as well from the Grays. And then just keep the long range booster just by itself on that big base. I think the long range booster actually looks pretty cool just as it is, with nothing to do with the Gundam or the Grays. If you're going to use it with the mobile suit, I think it looks better with the Grays. But I think just by itself it looks really awesome. So that might be what I would recommend is probably the best way to get your money's worth out of this. Leave the long range booster with all of that stuff on it. Have the Barbatos out separate, doing whatever else. If you don't have a Barbatos kit, it's a great way to get that. That is one thing that I guess should be said, is that if you don't have a HG Barbatos kit and you've been thinking of getting one, and you also think this looks cool, I would say just get this, because it's got the Barbatos, and then you have this whole other thing as well that you could do as well. So in terms of just negatives about the kit, in terms of seam lines and color separation, obviously there's going to be a lot of things you're going to have to paint. All those big stickers, those should all be relatively easy to mask though, except for in the front there, that's kind of inside. It's going to be a little bit tricky to mask that inside that part, because it's inside a concave. So yeah, it won't be the easiest maybe to paint a lot of that stuff. The seam lines, this is really not going to be too many. The Barbatos still has the seam line on the wrist, which I think is very unfortunate, because it's a really not the most difficult thing to get rid of, but it's really unsightly seam line if you're not going to be painting your kit. But other than that, on the long range booster itself, really isn't going to be too much in terms of seams. Of course, obviously we've got a seam down the middle of the propellant tank on the back, but other than that, not too bad. On the cannons up on top, you're gonna have seams there, but again, that should be pretty expected. Any HG weapons are most likely going to have seams on them. So that is going to be it for this review, guys. Obviously there was a lot to talk about, and I'm sure there's some stuff that I missed, so let me know in the comments below. Ultimately, is it worth it? It's basically like a huge option part set. So we have the option, the Iron-Blooded Arms option parts sets that we're getting out for small stuff, a few things. This is basically what it seems like to me, is just a really huge option part set. It's got some stuff you can use, it's got some stuff you're probably not going to use. You're going to have to mix and match for different kits and all of that. So that's kind of seems like what it is. So take it or leave it. That's what it's going to look like. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.